Before the pharaohs, before the pyramids, Egypt was not an empire. It was a collection of small tribes living in the shadow of the Nile. But deep in the Nubian desert, something incredible was happening 8,000 years ago. We call them the Nabta Playa culture, the first astronomers. They built the region's first stone calendar, a full millennium older than the famous Stonehenge in Britain. The stones align perfectly with the rotation of Orion's belt. They also buried cattle in stone chambers, creating the first cults. This was the birth of Hathor, the cow goddess, thousands of years before the first dynasty. But as the desert dried up, these people moved north, towards destiny. Following the astronomers came the Fayum culture, settling in the oasis southwest of Cairo around 5000 BC. They were the first true farmers of the region. We find remains of ancient granaries filled with wheat and barley, the fuel for a future empire. They lived in simple reed huts, using stone axes and flint arrowheads to hunt. By 4000 BC, the Merytneith culture rose in the north. They took a massive leap forward, domesticating cattle, sheep, and dogs. But their view of death was intimate. They buried their dead in a fetal position, wrapped in animal skins or reed mats, and they didn't put them in distant cemeteries. They buried them in shallow pits right next to their own homes. Around 4400 BC, the Badarian culture changed everything. They were the creators of the first true necropolis, cities for the dead. Unlike their ancestors, their tombs were filled with treasures, jewelry, ivory spoons, and ceramic amulets. Then the Madi Buto culture in the north brought a revolution: copper. They were the first miners extracting metal from the earth to create tools and weapons. They domesticated donkeys to create massive trade routes, importing oil and fat from Canaan. Meanwhile, in the south, the powerful Nakada culture began to rise. They were master traders, importing lapis lazuli all the way from modern-day Afghanistan. This marked the birth of the first major city, Nubt, the city of gold. Wealth brought power, and inevitably, the desire for conquest. But power shifts like the desert sands. Nubt fell and a new giant rose, Hierakonpolis. Known as the City of the Hawk, it began to conquer and centralize the entire region. Around 3200 BC, this city gave humanity a gift, the first signs of writing. Before the pyramids, they built the first temple in Egyptian history here. Then came the rise of Thinis and Abydos, cities that would define the royal bloodlines. In Thinis, technology exploded. They invented the sail. This allowed them to navigate the Nile against the current, unifying the land. They developed the first royal seals to mark ownership, and massive irrigation projects to control the life-giving river. The stage was set. Egypt was ready for its first true king. Before the official dynasties, legendary kings ruled. The most famous was Horus Scorpion II, but after his death, power passed to his son, Narmer. Narmer is the turning point, the first true pharaoh of history. He ruled for 60 years and achieved the impossible, unifying Upper and Lower Egypt around 3100 BC. For a long time, historians thought he was a myth, until 1898. Archaeologist James Quibble discovered the famous Narmer Palette in Hierakonpolis. This stone slab proved he was real, depicting him defeating his enemies in a ritual sacrifice. Modern discoveries in the tombs of Abydos confirmed his name on the king lists. He was the architect of Memphis, the city of white walls. and established the bloodline that would rule for millennia alongside Queen Neithhotep. Following Narmer came his son, hor-aha. He was a master builder, constructing a grand palace in Memphis and a fortress in Theban. He also honored Neith, the goddess of war, with a magnificent temple in Sais. But Aha was not just a ruler, he was a scientist. Ancient texts credit him with the first anatomical studies and autopsies in history. The Palermo stone records his trade missions with Canaan and wars against Nubia. But his legacy has a darker side found on ivory tablets in his tomb. These carvings depict the unification festivals, which included ritual human sacrifice to honor the gods. A brutal tradition that marked the beginning of the first dynasty. After Aha, his son Jer took the throne. He built a massive tomb at el-Ka'ab, which became a pilgrimage site for centuries. But upon his death, history took an unexpected turn. The heir was too young to rule, so a woman stepped forward. Queen Merytneith. For decades, archaeologists believed Merytneith was a man, until they excavated her massive mastaba in Sahara. They found her name linked to the royal bloodline, not as a consort, but as a ruler. She governed Egypt with an iron fist around 2900 BC. Ensuring stability for her son, Den, she was the first recorded female monarch in human history. Queen Merytneith paved the way for her son, Den, the Conqueror. He was the first to officially wear the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, and the first to use red granite in his tomb, a stone that would define the pyramids later. But after Den, the dynasty descended into darkness with Pharaoh Semerkhet. Considered a usurper, his reign was marked by a terrible plague. He committed the ultimate crime, erasing his father's name from the monuments. The dynasty ended in civil war, but the foundation was laid. From desert astronomers to the first kings, they created writing, medicine, and architecture. This is the true origin of ancient Egypt, a story of blood, sand, and genius. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, subscribe to History Unveiled.